got him on? Okay.
Better judgment,
Okay. Meeting will come to order. Welcome to the Cache County Council. Today is Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. If we have any visitors, I just remind you to sign the roll that's there by the clerk. You have a roll there, right? Okay, just making sure. Didn't want them to come up and be like, wait, it's not there. And we welcome you, and we will begin this evening with an opening by Councilman Gordon Zillis.
I'll make my open in the form of a prayer. Dear Father in heaven, as we come before Thee at this time at the council meeting of Cache County, we're very grateful for our heritage here in the county. We're grateful for all those who have made this county be the way that it is, and the decisions that it's made, and the citizens that have supported the county and all that they do, and for all the citizens that come here to enjoy the beauty and the safety and for all the things around. We're thankful that we are living in a beautiful area. We're thankful that we have been blessed with so many things. We pray now as we begin this council meeting that we'll be able to listen, and those who will speak will be able to be understood, and that we'll be able to enjoy the opportunity to serve. We're thankful for those who are in participation and their willingness to be part of the system and part of the way things are done in government. We pray now that Thou will watch over us, that Thou will instruct us and help us as we proceed with this meeting. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Would you stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gordy. Appreciate that. Next is the review and approval of the agenda. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We also have the minutes from our August 24th meeting. Have you had a chance to read those? Are there any additions or changes to those minutes?
I didn't see any. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of August 24th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we move now to item 5, which is the report of our county executive, David Zook. David.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have two appointments for you this evening, and they are both deputy sheriffs. One is Adam Bordrero, and the other is Michael Worston.
Thank you. Council, do we have a motion to appoint Adam Bordrero and Michael Worston as deputy sheriffs?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and approved, or moved and seconded. I'm getting ahead of myself. To appoint Adam Bordrero and Michael Worston as deputies. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Deputy Bordrero, related to Doug Bordrero, sheriff.
I'm not sure. Could be.
That would be interesting
Yeah.
to know.
Thank you, Council. The next item I have is, for your information, the August 2021 expense report warrant register has been provided to you. And then I have a few items to run through as far as informational items. First, I just wanted to mention Congressman Moore has an outreach director who now is responsible for our area, and he happens to be here this evening, Travis Campbell, if he'll just wave. Who happened to be in the area today, so came by our meeting. Thank you for visiting with us, Travis. Just by way of report, we had our Cheese and Dairy Festival, our first ever here in Cache County. It was a great success. I think we'll have a more detailed report coming up at a future meeting, but just briefly, I want to thank everybody who was involved, from the council to the staff to the volunteers to the business community and community members. It was an incredible event and something that I think we will see as a continuing successful and fun event for our community. Speaking of fun events, we had our county fair, and we met yesterday with the fair committee and did our debrief of the event. From all accounts, it was a very successful event as well. I just wanted to mention, if any of you have any feedback on the fair or things you'd like to see changed, please share those with me. I'd love to bring those back to the committee, and we want to make that the best it can be, so thank you for any input you might give. Speaking of the fairgrounds, we also had our fairgrounds committee yesterday, and we're continuing to work on the master plan. So I wanted to say the same thing about the master plan. If you have ideas or suggestions about the fairgrounds as far as the facilities go, we're working on that master plan, and we'd love any input you might have as a council for that document. We know that parking is a big issue there. That's probably one of our biggest issues, and that's something that hopefully we can address. Maybe we can buy the zoo someday and expand in that direction. I think that would be great. Speaking of facilities, council members Worthen and Ward accompanied me yesterday. We went on a tour of the Space Dynamics Lab in North Logan, which was an incredible tour. It's an impressive facility, really world-class, and we are so lucky to have that in our county. It's such an economic engine and intellectual engine for our country. So thank you both for coming with me. That was really impressive. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago with the Malou Foundation. They brought in an expert from out of state about child exploitation enforcement, and we met with our law enforcement representatives from our county attorney's office, our prosecutors, as well as sheriff's staff. And we talked about some issues and some things that we can do to make our community safer. We talked about a whole variety of issues, but one of the things that rose to the surface was the need to increase sentencing for child sexual predators, which is something we're going to be working on together with the Malou Foundation and our law enforcement officials. And already talked to Senator Wilson about opening a bill file for that, and you will hopefully be hearing more about that. We unfortunately had a horrible case recently in our county that we'll probably talk about a little bit more as the case finalizes, but it's a horrible example of the weaknesses in our sentencing system and something we need to really fix. I also attended another meeting about a week ago related to homelessness in our county, and it was really an eye-opener to see how many homeless people there are that we're working with. And they had a list of about 40 people. It was for the 3-county area, for the entire Bragg region, but many of them were in Cache County. And these were just the ones who were actively receiving services from the departments who were involved. It really opened my eyes to how big the problem has become in our community. I just wanted to mention it to you also because we will be doing a homeless count, if any of you would like to help out with that. They call it a point-in-time count, where we go out and find and identify everyone we can at a particular time. It's going to be on September 25th. That's a Saturday. So if you're interested in attending and helping out with that, this one's actually going to be during the day. They're usually done in the middle of the night. This one will be during the day, so a little easier to attend. If you'd like to attend, let me know. I just want to thank, I know Barbara's not here, but I want to thank her and everybody else who helped with the council summer social. It was a really great event, and John White, I just want to publicly thank him and his family for hosting us. It was a great opportunity to get together with our colleagues. The COG is going to be meeting next Monday, the Cache County Council of Governments, and talking about funding for a number of projects that were submitted. This is another good thing. It looks like we might have enough money to fully fund all of the projects that were submitted. So the COG will make that recommendation. Potentially as early as next week they'll decide on that. But just wanted to give you a heads up that those will be coming our way, and we've had some higher than anticipated revenues on the COG side as well. So we should be able to fully fund a number of projects from throughout the county. I just want to thank Chairwoman Gina Worthen for accompanying me. We went last week and attended the Smithfield City Council meeting, and it was a great meeting. They kind of grilled us a little bit and asked us a lot of questions about things we were doing or that we could be doing to help them. And we have a little to-do list of things that we're helping them out with. It's good to have collaborative relationships with our cities, and we'll be continuing to make those visits around the county. There is an EOC exercise next week, Emergency Operations Center exercise next week. Hopefully you all have that on your calendar, what days Will wants you to be there. If not, or if you need more information about that, let me know and I can get that information for you. But we'll be doing some training. Actually, most of the week next week we'll be having an exercise here in our valley and learning about emergency management and how we can better respond to emergencies. We'll have a lot of staff involved with that, from first responders to regular department staff, because in an emergency we might need everybody involved. So we'll be getting as many people trained as possible next week on that. Just wanted to mention also, the governor did come and visit our county on August 30th. He made a number of visits around our county, including to our new public works facility out in Hiram. He visited some businesses and some nonprofit organizations, and it was good to have him here visiting and learning about some of our needs and as well as some of our strengths that we have here. In addition to that, the Lieutenant Governor came last Friday and visited our election center. The Lieutenant Governor, if you're not aware, is responsible for elections statewide, and she came and visited our election center, and our clerk, Jess Bradfield, gave her a tour of that facility, and from my perspective, it seemed like she and her staff were impressed with what we have set up here, and the security and the technology and everything we have planned for our election. The last thing I want to mention on my report today is that we are planning an event for September 30th, and it's a suicide prevention awareness concert. And it's actually our next item on the agenda, and Margaret is here from our event center to talk about that. But before she does that, I just wanted to show a quick video that kind of gives a little bit of background about what she'll be talking about. So
Let's wait on that for just a moment.
Sure.
Let's do that when we get to Margaret, if that's all right. Because I wondered if the council had any questions for the county executive before we move on. I do have a question for you, David. You're talking about the sentencing. Are you talking about working to undo JRI? Because I know that's something we've been kind of working on in the background, trying to undo that to get harsher sentences back in order for some of these.
And actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you asked the follow-up question. Yes, that is essentially the direction we're going. We do feel like in many ways the pendulum has swung too far in the direction it's gone with JRI, and we need some correction there. Speaking of that, of JRI, there is going to be a listening session happening around the state in relation to JRI. So if any of you would like to attend that, let me just pull that up real quick. There it is. There will be a listening session here in Cache County on October 7th, and it will be from 1 to 4 p.m. at Hiram City Hall. So if you would like to go and comment on JRI, this is the Utah Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice who will be hosting that. And they'll have a number of visits around the state, I think about 10 visits around the state. Ours is the first one. So we'll be coming up here first to hear from us, October 7th from 1 to 4 p.m. at Hiram City Hall. And they are interested in our input. They want us to join the conversation, as they said, and bring our experiences, our concerns, and our thoughts to support continued action on JRI. And my hope is that it's moving back in the other direction and not continuing the direction it's been, because I do have a concern that our sentencing has become too lenient in many cases, and that is leading to an unsafe community.
I think that's been something that I know our former county attorney was working on, and as you know, it's one of the questions we ask our attorney candidates, and know there's a lot of concern about that as well. How long is the video?
2 minutes and 20
Okay,
2
so,
minutes.
okay. I'm just trying to watch the time to make sure we get our other stuff in, so, yeah, if you want to go ahead and show that, that'd be great. And then Margaret, when that's done, will you come on up? Okay.
If you mute your mic so we don't really feedback.
like this happening. There's so many of us are screaming inside, and we don't want to talk about it. We think it's embarrassing. Pardon the pun, but this is a life project for me. Personal concern, I was 16 years old, I was broke, I was homeless, hungry, wondered where my life was going, and I was crying my eyes out. There's one song that came up, and the lyrics were just so powerful. And that song literally spoke to me and just changed the whole trajectory of my life. People struggle, people go through a hard time, and a lot of times people don't think life is worth living. That's what this concert's about. It's about saying it is worth living. His music, but then that great foundation brings hope. And it also brings awareness to something that we really don't want to talk about. This is one of those wonderful causes where we can make a difference. That's what we're all about. Let's make a difference, make it a better place, and give people a little hope. We all come together and connect and find ways that we can help each other, especially when it comes to mental illness and suicide prevention. This is a big thing.
You came up with this idea for this concert and wondered if in part of your presentation you could tell us about how this came about.
Absolutely. So my name is Margaret Gittens. I am a local business owner, and I also work part-time for the Fairgrounds. I myself have dealt with mental health issues, and last week was just kind of having one of those weeks. I took to my personal social media, my business social media, and had posted a quote about rising up and sticking together. I had one of my followers reach out to me and state that she had just attended a concert the evening before in Harriman that Alex Boyer had put on for suicide awareness there. And on a whim, I shot him a message, and he responded to me, asking him how we could make this happen in Logan. So he responded to me almost immediately, gave me his manager's contact information, and so since then we have been on the phone multiple times a day. Later that afternoon, I again went to my own personal social media and just expressed that I genuinely felt that this was needed for multiple reasons. Things were falling into place before I even knew they needed to be. I had called and left a message with David Zook stating that I wanted to speak with him because at that time there was just a price tag and I wanted to ask him how we could go about that. He was not able to meet me until the following morning, and by the following morning I had already had a multitude of people contact me. I hadn't sent anything out to anybody saying it was happening or we needed X amount of dollars. They were simply offering. Such as one of the first checks we've received is from Gosner's for $5,000. Alex Boyer's livelihood is this business. I understand that as a business owner. I understand and appreciate that he still has his family to feed. So there is a price tag associated with him. He does obviously want to put on a show that's worth remembering and is top notch as it can be. And so there is light, sound, stage. I've been in communication with quite a few of those people thus far, finding out what that will run, what that will cost. And in the meantime, the inquiries for how this can be supported keep coming in. I have yet to send anyone a request for a donation. At this time, however, we would like to have this event, like stated, on September 30th so that we keep it within Suicide Awareness Month. Per se, that is a date that works with the Fairgrounds as well as Mr. Boyer's schedule and his band. And I am here tonight to simply ask that if funds are not reached by donations and sponsors, that general funds and restaurant funds can possibly be used to cover the remaining balance.
Thank you. So the concert is meant to be free to people?
It is meant to be a free event, yes.
Council, do you have any questions? Quiet bunch today. I think this could be a really great event, and I really appreciate you thinking of it and having it, and not just, oh, that'd be great, but actually working to make it happen and reaching out and getting our county executive on board and the other things that you've been doing. I think it's fantastic. And do you have a number? Do you know how much it is that you would need to make up the difference, or what do you?
So we don't have a number of difference because we are just receiving these funds and sending those. We did make a formal letter that we could send to the people asking how they would make a donation, and that would go through the Cash Community Foundation so that all expenses were done through there and tallied and kept correctly. So at this time, we don't have a total of what we've received other than people saying, I'm sending a check for this amount. Alex Boyer alone, his price is $25, and then there's an estimated $15 to $20 in light, sound, and production costs that are associated with that. I do not have a confirmation from his manager. However, someone that called on my behalf, I do not know who that is, associated with a food account, I'm assuming it's my local rep with US Foods, has stated that they will cover up to $25,000 of this event.
Wow, that's amazing.
We're confident we'll be able to raise the money. However, we can't wait until we've raised all the money to move forward. We have to move forward. We had a planning committee meeting this morning, and we're moving forward with the planning of the event, the stage, the sound, the t-shirts, stickers, marketing, so many different pieces of it. Margaret's intent today is just to ask if you'll have her back if for some reason that funding doesn't come through. We have commitments, like she said, before this one that she just mentioned. We had probably close to 15,000 in other commitments that had just basically come in automatically in the first couple of days, and we haven't even really publicly announced it yet. So we feel pretty confident that that'll happen, but we want to know that you'll back us up if the donations don't come in.
David, is this something that happened to get put in the budget amendment? Because I didn't get a chance to look through it because it came in early this.
No, I don't think so. However, we could do that today.
Yeah, we could amend it and add it in if we wanted to. So you're looking at kind of an idea like we did with the Cheese Fest, up to a certain amount from the council?
If needed.
If needed, right, if needed. If needed.
Madam Chair, I think this would be a very good place to spend some of our, of our money that we have not spent in that fund. And I think we overlook that particular part of the county, and I think that we should support it. I don't know a lot about it, but I think the principles are something that we should support.
I think so too. Is there a particular fund you're thinking of, Gordy? Are you thinking of restaurant or just general fund?
I think if we could get it out of the restaurant fund, that would be a good place to start. And I'm not really familiar with the rules on that fund, but there's a possibility that it would qualify, and if it does, I think we'd be okay.
I was thinking the same.
We feel like it would. I've had that conversation with our finance department already. We use those funds to support a number of different events in our county. We feel like that would be a good fit.
Okay.
This is probably the first time that we've supported something like that out of those particular funds that I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
So it would probably be advisable to do it, at least in my opinion.
Okay, so when we get to the budget opening, if you want to make a motion to just amend it to add this in.
We need to make that motion now, I guess?
I think we can do it when we move to the budget opening. I think that would be,
I think so. I think we can wait till the budget opening.
I think so too.
And add it as an item.
as an item. I'll make myself a note so that I don't forget.
Let's not forget, but that's.
David, help me remember, okay?
Information too.
Okay. All Margaret, thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay, it's 5:30, so we need to move down to item number 9. And we need to set a public hearing for September 28th. This would be to amend part of our code to allow for agricultural-related alcohol production and sales. And we also need to reset a public hearing that was scheduled for tonight because apparently there's some changes, and this was at the request with the thumbs up from, this was a request of the people who are asking for the rezone and a thumbs up from the Planning and Zoning Department. So we need to reset a public hearing for October 12th for the T&B Nelson rezone, which is a rezone request for 11.53 acres from A10 to RU5 at 1939 Canyon Road near Smithfield. So do I have any motions to set those public hearings?
I'll make a motion to set the September 28th public hearing, ordinance 2021-21, and reset public hearing for October 12th for ordinance 2021-20.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to set those public hearings as previously described, so that I don't have to read them all again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we can now move back to item 7, and we'll go to our general plan update, and we have Lauren Ryan here, and she is our countywide planner. Thanks for being here, Lauren.
Thanks. Got a presentation. All right. Thank you. Great. Good evening, council members. Thanks for having me here this evening. So at the last update, we were just working through launching our survey for the general plan project. And so tonight will be an update of how the survey and responses we've received so far is going. So this graph that you see is grabbed directly from the website on the back end, and I added in kind of our outreach efforts so far, just so you can kind of see correlation between what's been done and how many hits we've had on the website. So this is from September 1st, which is when the survey went live on the website, up until today, the 14th. And so the website platform, you'll see on the right-hand side there, the highlights. So in terms of the aware visitors, which we have 2,000, so the website counts the aware visitors as a visitor who at least made one single visit to the site so far. The informed visitors, so that one in the middle there, is any visitor that went to the website and then actually made a click on the website as well. And then the engaged visitors are ones who have visited the website and then also completed the survey or done some other task on the website there. So I thought it was pretty neat to see those numbers so far. So starting on September 1st, which is when we launched the survey, we ran a social ad on Facebook from September 1st until the 5th. We had the Herald Journal run an article that was both online and in print that was posted on September 3rd. I also sent out a media kit and alerted our steering committee members, mayors with all of the communities, the clerks, whoever was best to reach within those communities, and 80 stakeholders that we had a list of that we were conducting the survey. And also sent newsletters to registered participants on the survey, through the website. So right now we have 386 registered participants through the website. So they were all informed via newsletter that we are conducting a survey. Run lots of social media posts through the countywide planning, Facebook and Instagram. And then we'll see a huge spike here on September 10th That was when the Cache Valley Daily ran an op-ed, which I saw, Gina, you made some comments on as well. So, yeah, I wasn't quite sure what we were getting into when he contacted me and said he was writing an op-ed about it. I was a little worried, but then it ended up playing really well in our favor. I think it was written really well, and I was really happy with how that turned out. So,
Mark Ensign that wrote that op-ed.
Yep. Yeah, I think if you guys haven't read it yet, definitely worth a read. Also, that got I looked at it on Facebook today, and it made its rounds on there as well. So I think that was a really good push for you can see how many people we had engage on that day when the op-ed came out. We also had the postcards with the QR code. I have one right here. Got mailed out Friday the 10th to over 2,000 residents throughout the county. I've spent the last 2 days driving all over Cache County, which has been a great way to see every city, and posting flyers in all of the town halls and everything, and talking with people that way. So I just completed that yesterday and today. So from when I pulled this off the website, we've had 907 survey responses and a total of 1,543 visits to the survey page. So that means that when people go to the survey page, we have just over 58% of people taking the survey, actually. So I think that's a really good mark. And then on our draft land use map, we have 29 dropped pins with comments on there, and 546 visitors to that page. So if you guys haven't taken the survey yet, just wanted to show you a couple screen grabs of what it looks like. Staff worked really hard internally to make sure that the questions that are on here were readable to the public, and that we didn't use too much planner jargon, which we as planners tend to like to do. So we made sure that it was readable and that the general public would be able to understand the questions. And so just a couple of preliminary survey results I wanted to share with you this evening. So the top graph shows a breakdown of zip codes of where people live who are taking the survey. So we decided to make the survey open to anyone, and that you didn't have to register to take the survey, because we felt that that would maybe limit some people who wanted to take it. So we don't have it required that you enter your zip code, so this may be missing a few folks, but gives you a good sense of where people live who are taking the survey. And then the bottom two questions are responses that we've gotten. So question on the left was to whether you support protecting our recreational, scenic, and natural value of our canyons, wildlife, and national forest areas. That green color is strongly support. Somewhat you can see that in the middle there. So we can see, and I think as we know, people love the open spaces around here, and they really value that. And then the question on the right was if you're in support of planning for long-term water needs through conservation and water supply projects, while considering water rights for agricultural lands and natural areas. So once again, seeing a lot of support from the public so far. So just wanted to give you guys some preliminary results polled. And then lastly, once again, another recap of what we've done as staff to get the word out. Newsletters, media kits, reminders to folks to take the survey, social media posts, postcards, flyers, and then press releases to news articles as well. So we set a deadline to have the survey completed by September 19th. And that was really to give the public kind of a sense of urgency, so it wouldn't just, they'd get a postcard or see it and say, oh, I'll take that later. So we're talking with our consultants tomorrow, but I think we'll plan on leaving the survey open until the end of September. So that's the plan as of right now. And so we'll continue to work through the remainder of this month to continue to get the word out. And once we wrap this up, then October will be a time for our consultants to go through all the data and all the responses that we've received and come up with a summary. And that will probably be ready to present to you next month, hopefully. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions, council? Oh, we're a quiet bunch today. It's unusual. Lauren,
I know.
thank you, and thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah, thank you. And also if because I know Gina, you mentioned in the article that if the public had any specific responses to email the council as well. So if you guys get any, feel free to forward them on to me as well, just so we're aware of anything that you guys get. So we're on the same page. So
I
yeah.
thought that would be easiest if they could just go to the council page, find our emails, and send us an
Yeah,
email.
yeah,
So,
that's a great way too. Yeah, because the survey page limits the amount of character responses that people can give. So yeah, and once again, thank you for talking to. I think it was good to have your voice in there as well. So I appreciate that. Yeah, great. Thank you.
thanks, Lauren. Okay, we'll now move to item 7B, Dust Control Program on Gravel Roads. Matt Phillips, our Public Works Director. And Matt, thanks for being here to tell us about this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After the stuff on the suicide, I've kind of had a hard time collecting my thoughts. I've been kind of excited about this presentation for quite a while, but for some reason that got to me today. So if I don't look like I'm super excited, it's not because I'm not excited about dust. But
You are probably the only person in the world excited about dust, Matt.
so I will be as brief as possible. I know there's a lot of things on the agenda, but I wanted to let the council be aware of that the Public Works Department has started looking into a dust control program. All the counties around us do some kind of dust control. Franklin County, Box Elder County, they've all been doing it for 25 plus years, so I think it's time for the county. So just as a recap quick, we have about 400 miles of gravel roads. 200 of those are in the mountains, 200 of those are in the valley. Our planned maintenance for the valley floors is grading usually in the spring and fall, and then as needed we'll replace the gravel material. What's hurting our road program and costing us expenses is the unplanned maintenance. So the washboards, the dust, the retoppings. We lose gravel, and this is due to traffic, it's due to speed, it's due to the materials, and it's due to weather. So it's just, we can't really plan for those things, and so some of our roads are getting graded 7-8 times a year. And it's really costing the road department extra money that's not planned and not budgeted for. So dust control, when it's done right, it extends maintenance life, improves health, safety. It's good for the public. The public really appreciates it. It preserves the roadway gravel. It's pretty easy, and more importantly, it should reduce our annual costs. So as we looked at it quickly, we can look at the costs that it will save us from grading. It will save the cost from putting additional aggregate on our roads. The things that we can't measure are how many complaints we don't get, the quality of life of residents that live on those streets, the property values. If you're in a dusty area, your property values change. Some of the roads that we're planning on doing, there's children that live there that have health issues. So the health problems, water quality, the erosion, the vegetation, we get a lot of complaints about farmers and they're filled with a lot of dust on it. So, and also air quality. So those are all the things that we feel like that the benefits are there. Some of them are easier to measure than others. So what the county is proposing is we feel like any good road program needs to have a dust maintenance. So this is not, it's just another tool in our bag. So along with chip seal, pavement, drainage, we're going to add dust control as one of those tools in our bags to help. There is some initial costs, but we feel like over time the maintenance costs will decrease as we save those topping, the grading, the call outs, those types of things. So we think after a few years this program will actually fund itself. So just for information, we've picked out a few areas. I passed out a map before council that shows these areas, but this year we've picked out these areas to go put some spots on. So we're gonna go out and do some dust control in these areas. We're gonna monitor it, we're gonna see how it goes, we're gonna evaluate the application, we're gonna evaluate the soils, and do all of our engineering that it takes to look at these areas, and then see how it functions during the winter, see how it functions during the spring, and then next year, we're hoping to come back with a larger scale program for countywide. And then we'll probably try to reevaluate that each year. So, just kind of a FYI information if someone asks, hey, the county put dust control over here, when are they coming to my house or something like that. We're hoping to get a road committee that will help us determine the best location countywide for that next year. So this is just kind of a pilot program.
Well, what's the process you use?
So without getting too technical, what we've decided to select is a mag chloride. Mag chloride is kind of like a salt, but when applied in a liquid form, it soaks into the gravel and it sucks moisture out of the air. So in our climate, you know, if there's moisture or there's water, it rains, it'll suck that moisture, and basically it keeps the road a little bit wet. Not so much that you can't drive on it, but back east they use some different types of products where it'll suck, it does different properties. But for the western United States, Texas, Idaho, Wyoming, mag chloride is found to be one of the best products that's the least expensive. So
Is that the same product you spray on the road just before a winter storm?
it's a little different, but it has similar properties. That is correct.
Because that's what it seemed to me like that was the name of that stuff.
Yeah. A good salt product does have some mag in it, but this is in different, you know, different quantities, different mixtures. But we put it on in a liquid form.
You're telling us that you're estimated that there's going to be some road maintenance cost savings. I'm not sure how you're going to figure that out.
Well, if we did the planned maintenance, then it probably wouldn't. But for these roads that are seeing the washboards, the roads that we're getting consistently called out to fix the roads because of dust issues, because we're putting more aggregate on it, is this product, it should reduce the amount of maintenance that's required on these roads. It should, you're not going to be losing all that fine material, so then your gravel's not blowing off. So over time, it should save us money on the materials that we actually got to put back on the road.
Does it firm up the gravel as you spray
Yes,
it on?
yes.
That's the only thing I could see that you could help in maintenance of it, firm the gravel up so that you don't get the washboard moved.
It will. Over time, if you drive some of the Franklin County roads, Box Elder County roads, you'll see that some of those are fairly hard. So, and that's just because we've kept the compaction. It's not the mag chloride that's hardening it up, but it's that it keeps its compaction. It keeps, as things dry out, they become loose, and that's where you get the dust, you get the aggregate that's going, you get the washboards, you get all those things. So
What happened to the old spraying the used oil on them? That was pretty good stuff.
I wasn't here then, and I'm glad I wasn't.
That's a joke. We know why we quit doing that.
There is a lot of people in the county that will apply the same product in front of their houses and stuff as well. And so, any other questions?
Matt, you sure know your road stuff.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for presenting this to us. Okay, Cameron, how long would a presentation be on the budget opening? Would it be about 10 minutes or less than that?
I can use up as much time as you want me to, because there's nothing more exciting except dust on the road. But there is a new format, and so I did want to spend some time to make sure we all understood what we were seeing.
Okay.
I can come up.
Since we have that set for a public hearing at 6, let's move to that, and then when we're finished with that, Tara, we'll come back and get you.
Presentation's done.
All right, so we need to add new computer to the budget.
Right. And new computer. Oops, I forgot.
You should get mad and walk up so John Hyde has dust down through the
folders I got.
Sorry about the delay there. Thanks for the help there, Bart. All right, so here's our resolution. So there's actually 3 reports versus the one that you used to get. So, and if you like this order, that's great. I can put them in a different order if you like, or any feedback that you have on these reports we can take. So if we start out with just this first section, this is a totally redesigned section. The way it would show up in the past is we might have a description similar to this that we have in highlighted here. But we would see that each time we came across it in budget in account order. So you can see here we have the 4 different accounts there. We have a revenue account in the general fund, and an expenditure or a transfer account in the general fund, and also a transfers in the municipal services, and then a department expenditure. Those are listed here, how we're using each one of those. Ultimately, this $20,000 is being appropriated to be spent in public works. But in the old format, we would see that in 4 different places. We would see it in the general fund revenues, and then we'd total up all of our revenues. We would see it in the general fund transfers, and we total those up. Same thing again in municipal services. So this format is trying to say, let's talk about the one issue all at once, and then we'll show you the associated accounting that goes with it. So you won't have to look for a match somewhere else in the document. This will just be where all of it is at once. So the numbers here, what happens with revenue accounts, this is a little bit of accounting here. Anytime we're going to increase a revenue, it's going to show up with a minus sign. This is how we make debits and credits balance in accounting. So credit increases come with a negative sign, debit increases come as a positive. So each one of these then will always equal 0 when you add them all up. That lets you know that it's a balanced budget amendment. This column here, source or department, is saying this is where we're recognizing new revenue, or in this case here, we're appropriating a use of fund balance. And also, where are we, what department are we appropriating the use of those funds? And then the last column is the fund that it's in. So, like we said before, this $20,000, what we're really doing is appropriating use of fund balance in the general fund, transferring it to public works, which is in the municipal services fund. Easier to say than it is to account for, and so we have the description there first. You can really skip all of this stuff here if you want to. This is the issue right here. So in this case, there's some money being requested to set aside for some survey involving drainage district boundaries. This came with a discussion that I had with Bryce. He'll kind of further that along, but that's where this request had come from, and I think he's discussed that with the executive and with some of you already. Now, in going through this, there's actually 45 different issues. So we can go through all 45 of those if you want, or we can hit the big ones.
Council?
Just hit the big ones.
Just the big ones, that's what I was thinking.
Are you sure? No, that'd be great.
Let's talk about dust. Let's talk about this, right?
Yeah.
All right, so one of the big ones here then is this grant funding that is coming in for fire and EMS. And so we'll show that again here too. What you have here is an increase of $147,000 recognizing that revenue. And then it's being appropriated to the different items that it will be spent on. So in short, this is something that came through UAC related to ARPA funding, if I'm correct. Is that right, Chief? So it was fortunate for us to acquire that. Chief Hammer worked on that, and we're recognizing that and appropriate that into the budget. This one looks really big, but it's really just kind of shuffling things into the right buckets. So when we first started ambulance operations this year in the county, we said we're going to take a pretty simplistic best guess that we can about how revenues are going to come in. And we really recognize things just all in one line, ambulance fee revenues. What this is doing here then is actually increasing the amount of total revenue that we anticipate receiving now that we've had 7 and 8 months to look at. But we also anticipate how much of that is going to be written off in bad debt, how much is going to be written off because insurance companies require you to write that off. And we actually want to track all those data points so that we can show what our gross billings were for ambulance services and then how much ends up being written off due to insurance or just bad debt. We also have an estimate here of bad debt that does get written off. Some of it will still be collected, and so then we have a bad debt revenue collection account. Have some small donations there. We are also recognizing $103,000 in a new CDBG grant. This is also tied to, I think actually this is the tail end of CARES Act funding that was funneled through the CDBG program, but is for 2 Meals on Wheels trucks. This includes the trucks plus all the equipment that comes with that. These restaurant tax, there's a few of them here. These actually are awards that have already been made, but were then not recorded in transfer accounts. So we're just setting those up so that when they're used, we can transfer them from our restaurant tax fund into the municipal services fund. It's not actually new money or new awards. This one with the zoo, same kind of a scenario. It's just more to kind of clean up the accounting. It was originally budgeted in what was a facilities expense. However, they're going to be using it for operations, and so we're just correcting our tracking of that. Not new money or a new award. It's the one that was awarded through the regular program. This is a bigger one, and maybe one that needs a little bit of explanation, so we can see a little bit longer of an explanation here. Compensation Committee has proposed to the council and that there be a 3% increase in salaries and wages for employees for beginning in the current year, and retroactive even to that first pay period in July. That's been talked about already somewhat. What this explains here is this is all the anticipated funding that we'll need. Not every department actually is going to need an adjustment, and what that comes from is that there have been open positions in several departments. Some have been open actually even from the beginning of the year. And so in the current year budget, even to do that increase, they don't need more budget funding. So what's represented here is those departments that are going to need additional funding to make that increase happen. So, and this will break it down for you, telling you how much that increase is by rate, but also when the effective date is and how much that increased in each fund. It was $191,000 in the general fund, and then actually with an allocation $2,600 in tax administration. This was additional grant funding at the airport. See if we have another. Also, this is a request to replace the man lift at the fairgrounds, or sometimes call it cherry picker or whatever, where they're doing a lot of their tree maintenance. That machine also has come over to the administration building and to here on window cleaning, kind of as a secondary use. So the request actually, we have in our current budget a budgeted contribution to the fund balance. This amount is actually saying rather than make that contribution to the fund balance, let's use the money to make this purchase on the man lift. And the way I understand is that $105,000 is actually not a new man lift, it's a very good condition used man lift.
Can you talk about the increase to the Chamber of Commerce? Maybe, David, you could tell us what that's about?
You know about just as much as I do when you said that.
Okay.
Let's see where.
Did you want?
Right there.
I don't know who would speak on
Right now,
that.
or Sean could talk about that.
Just a question. I thought while we were here, might as well ask.
I don't know I was requested to put that, and that's about how much I know of it. John, do you know more? You want to come up?
Yeah, we just quick. I'm just curious about that while we're on it, so I don't forget.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Sean Milne, your Economic Development Director. So I was informed that there were negotiations that happened at about the time I came on board or just shortly before, that, as you likely recall, my position in-house replaced a previous contracted position that the Chamber of Commerce offered similar services to respond to requests for information or RFIs when certain business interests might inquire about locating in Cache County. And the previous dollar amount was much higher. If I recall correctly, just from memory, off the cuff like this, I want to say it was in the tune of about $30,000 a year. And as the county took on this position in-house, that was to be reduced. And as I was informed, again, right as I came on board, this amount from a reduced number of about 5,000, of 10, was bumped up by an agreement with the county and the chamber for services provided in an ongoing sort of way because of COVID impacts. I wasn't privy to those discussions because I didn't participate in them, and I'm just going off of what I recall from about 6 months ago. But Madam Chair, that is the best of my recollection that I remember that. Any further questions?
No,
And so it is my understanding that that is just for the remainder of 21, and 2022 may see a reduced number, but I'm again happy to take on some ongoing discussions with the chamber if you'd like, but otherwise that's all I know at this time.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
We hit 30, so we're 2/3 of the way there.
Cameron, I do like this new way of doing it. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but it works more how my brain works without having to flip back and see where it came from, where it's going. I like having it consolidated.
I hope that would be the case, but again, any feedback on changes is appreciated. We're recognizing some forest service agreements in the tune of $168,000. That's a regular occurrence, I believe. Matt, maybe you could speak better to that, or is this an additional?
Those are special grant projects.
Oh, these are new,
Those are grant projects this year.
not related to the ongoing contracts. Okay. This one may be more confusing if you try to look at all the accounting, but it is essentially, there was funding in the recorder's office that was moved to allow for that office remodel that's taken place. After review of the revenues that actually generated in the recorder's office, the request here is to restore those original budgets back to their original level with the revenue coming in from fees charged in the recorder's office. And just stop me if you see anything you like. This one here is related to actually an older project we've done, a trails project, if you recall, with I think Logan City was part of that, and related to Kunzler property. Original RAPS tax award was $150,000 on that, and it was for a set number of acres that was to go into that project. At the end of the project, the acreage used was significantly less, and so the amount of RAPS tax dollars that go into that was significantly less. However, that money had already been transferred out of RAPS and over to municipal services for that project. With closing that out, we're just putting that money back in RAPS tax. And then I guess last here, there's a lot of items, maybe not a high dollar amount, but as you recall, several departments in the general fund will take a percentage and allocate their total cost over to the tax administration fund. rather than try to do that as a piece of every little transaction that was happening, we just looked at it as a whole after all the other amendments are made. This is the effect then that would take place of those allocations. So these are all those allocations that would take place. And that kind of wraps up those items and the transaction specific items for the budget amendment. Then there's two other reports. So this first report that comes next after that is kind of a macro view to look at what happens to each one of the funds with this budget amendment. So if we look at the general fund, for example, our current budget in the general fund right now is $39,825,900. We are anticipating in these changes additional revenues of $164,500, and you'll see expenditures actually much larger than that at $598,500. Transfers in, this is going to be revenue, but instead of coming from outside the county, it's just coming from a separate fund. So you add up transfers out in the funds below, some of those are transferring money into the general fund. And so that's where 71,000 comes from. 20,000, we talked about that one specifically for the drainage districts, is transferring out of the general fund into municipal services. So part of this transfer in municipal services is going to be that 20,000. And so transfers are listed separately so we can understand that that's not new money in or out from the county, that's just shuffling between funds. Revenues and expenditures, this is money coming into the county, money going out of the county. Also on here then is fund balance to say, with these amendments, what's happening to our fund balance? Is it increasing or decreasing or no change at all, right? In the case of the general fund, we show it is decreasing because, again, a lot of that wage offset come from, instead of contributing to the fund balance, we are going to use that for wages instead. So it reduces the amount that can flow through to the fund balance. At the end of all those changes, our budget in the general fund has gone from that $39.8 million to $40,070,100. So that just gives a quick overview of what's happening by fund. And so it's a one-page report. And then the last, there's still several pages here, but this will do fund by fund, but now it will show you each revenue source and expenditure or department expense, right? So, for example, again, we could see the grant that we had talked about for the fire department, $147,000. That's coming in as intergovernmental revenue. And if we scroll down and we found where's our fire and EMS, we can see that that's part of the additional expenses there because we'll get that grant revenue so we can spend it. And but this will show you very quickly then by department where are our expenses then increasing, or in this case, like with our translator station, there's no change in that budget at all. So you could scroll through this report and find very quickly where the changes are to the budget by department. So not new information here, but again, a different way to look at what's happening. The first column then being our current budget, our amended, and then what the new budget would be if you make the adoption. Any other questions?
Doesn't look like we have any. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
We do have a 6 o'clock public hearing on this budget amendment. And so I'd like to open that now if we have anyone here to speak on the budget amendment. If you'd like to come forward to the podium here and state your name and give us your comments.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Oh, you have a comment?
Kind of.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, but that's okay. We'll let you sneak in.
I actually want to sneak one item in if it's okay. The council had been very interested in the hiring of a grants writer manager position. And with your permission, I would like to introduce who we hired.
Oh, let's do that right after we vote on this.
Okay,
We'll go ahead and do
Thank
that.
you.
Okay. All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries and the public hearing is closed. Cameron, if you'd introduce us to our new grants manager, that'd be great.
I'd love to. Okay. Emily, you want to come on up? So appreciate the funds that were appropriated by the council for this position, and we went to work on that as quickly as we could with revised job description, as you know, and we put that out. We got more applicants this time around than we did before by actually a good margin. And as we selected for interview and then worked through those interviews, Alma Burgess is who we've selected. He comes to us with some good experience that he's had up at the university in the grants environment and in, also with education from a government standpoint. So I'll let him elaborate on that a little bit, but we're very happy to have him on board with us.
Again, Alma Burgess, grant writer manager. Very happy to be here, to be able to fill this position. And it's been a whirlwind the last couple of weeks, but I'm excited to be here. I was at Utah State University for about 17 years, managing grants, acquiring grants, and so I'm really excited to be here in the government setting, to be able to help out and bring more revenue in and meet everybody, and I'm trying. So, any questions?
Questions? Alma, thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you, and we're excited to have you on board.
Thank you.
Alma is very humble as well, as you maybe can tell. His grant experience is something that he kind of worked into almost by chance. His education, actually, he has a master's of public administration, so bringing his grant experience to county government is a perfect fit for him. And he jumped in at the deep end. He knows as much about ARPA now as anybody else here does, myself included. And he's been a great resource for us. So thanks again for that appropriation.
Thank you, Cameron. Okay, we're going to move back now to item 7C, and that's Victim Services, presentation by Terrell Warner, our Victim Services Director. Terrell, thanks for being here.
Put my glasses on or off.
I hear you.
So I guess I want to put them on so I can see what I wrote. Let's see, we just finished doing our VOCA grant. Thank you, Alma, who's our new grant person who's going to help. We got VOCA approved. We have VOCA and VAWA grants. Remind you that that's not taxpayer funded. We have right under $1 million for the next year, and that funds the salaries and benefits of about 17 people. The county does have match on that. So I wanted to just touch base with you that we did finish that.
Would you remind people what the VOCA and VAWA stands for and what that is?
VOCA is the Victims of Crime Act. The VAWA is the Violence Against Women and Children Act, and it does include men and boys as well. It just started out in the 1990s as VAWA. Wanted to just give you a little bit of an update. Labor Day was a pretty difficult weekend for us. We had 5 victim advocates out on different calls all over the weekend. In about an 84-hour period, we handled, I think, 13 deaths. We had a young woman who was sexually assaulted when a man went into their house. And we had a myriad of other cases, which brings me to the other point, which is we're hearing rumblings that courts are going to go back to the red status. My victim advocates each handle more than 250 cases at any given time. I keep telling you it's not sustainable, but we keep sustaining it. We met with John Luthi, our county attorney, last week, and Nate Argyle and Lieutenant Barchi, and talked about things. And, you know, for the first time, I saw several of my advocates pretty emotional. It's been pretty tough. I talked to David briefly tonight about maybe doing something with some of our grant funding and getting a crisis therapist. We had an incident, we've had incidences every week where we need multiple crisis therapists. We have several on contract, but a crisis means immediately. And we've had some incidents take place, it seems like lately, where we need multiple crisis therapists, not just victim advocates, but we have some horrific events. And it's not just crime-based. We had a really horrific event involving a farm activity. We had 3 victim advocates working that, plus a crisis therapist, because the number of people involved. So I wanted to just let you know we're going to keep plugging along. I appreciate so much the suicide concert that you're talking about. I can tell you, I believe in 2019, we did death notifications of about 10. In 2020, we were at 12, and I want to say we're mid-30s right now. And every one of those has family, and they are hurting. And I am just very concerned about that. Our courts are up in the air. We're hoping that we will continue to go through with some of the trials. I know, just like our victim advocates are completely overwhelmed with their case loads, our prosecutors, especially Dane Murray and Griffin Hazard, who are our VAWA prosecutors, are pretty overwhelmed as well. So cases from 2.5, 3 years ago that we were trying to get to trial have not settled. And we keep adding more cases to those. It just, I think the Herald Journal and Cache Valley Daily and Cache Valley Breaking do have some, I think they give you a pretty good idea of what's going on, but there is a lot behind the scenes that the general public doesn't know. So I just wanted to leave that with you. I appreciate this. I am hoping that that this type of a concert, I told David, I think this is a great idea to bring this issue out, and mental health. We also have another idea, and I'm not going to bring it up today because I know time is of the essence, and I basically just said, hey, I sent you an email on this idea that I came up with. But one of the concerns that Lieutenant Barchi had on patrol, and we see that when we respond with the patrol officers, is the number of mental health calls we're receiving. Sometimes it could be 2 or 3 a day. Sometimes it could be 10 a day. We've got the MCOT team, but in terms of going out with law enforcement or taking those calls that may not be rising to the level of going to the BHU or having MCOT team respond, I've kind of been playing with that idea of what we can do. So I would plan on coming to you. I'm going to talk to David a little bit more and Nate and see about that. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. We've just, yeah, it's just been a rough summer and going into fall.
Real quick, what does it mean when a court is going to red?
That means that we will be on WebEx, which in the last year and a half has not allowed us to have any trials. We just, unless somebody wants to plead guilty, we have lists of cases waiting for trial.
So 7-Eleven can stay open, but the courts can't?
Yeah, and actually I came up with what I thought was a brilliant idea, and I'll share it with you.
Fire all the judges and get new ones?
Yeah, no, I think because it's a decision made out of out of Salt Lake. I don't know why we can't use the Cache Valley Event Center. I know Tony laughed, but why we can't use the Cache Valley Event Center? We can spread out. We have really high ceilings. We have an area we could put a defendant. We have we could do all the physical distancing. I don't know what the answer is, but we need to move forward on court because we've got both victims and defendants that are just waiting. So my suggestion would be to hold them at the Cache Valley Event Center. I don't know if anybody else likes that idea, but my victim advocates do. So we can move forward.
Who has to make that decision?
Who has to make that decision? I think it's the administrative offices of the court. But I think we could at least say, listen, we could try to make this work. We could have a podium there for a judge, and we have a recording system there because we've had our Amber Alert trainings there. So we have parking, we have ways the sheriff's office already oversees that for patrol, and I don't know what else, but that kind of was an idea that I came up with. Or we just have people either be vaccinated or tested every day. But when we found out the courts were going back to red, which means we would be not in person, I don't know how we can keep going on in the criminal justice system that way. So you're right, it's concerning that 7-Eleven can open and Maverick can be open, but we can't have a court open.
Well, my mom always said, if I can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
So you and I won't be saying anything at all.
That's correct.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say was they're borderline incompetent, but I didn't say that. That's across the board, I think.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Terrell, can you tell us about the details of what mental health issues deputies or other officers are encountering that don't rise to the level of the Mobile Crisis Outreach Team, the MCOT? Right, that's what it stands for, right?
Yeah, MCOT, it's interesting because what we're being told is that they respond sometimes, but they are not responding on scene right now. So they basically will take a phone call from a deputy. And it's just somebody that may be struggling and saying, I'm just kind of thinking of, I don't want to live anymore, it's really hard. And that doesn't really rise to the level of an MCOT thing, but it also doesn't rise to the level of a law enforcement officer as well.
So we really need a mental health outreach,
Mm-hmm.
some way to get them that help.
Well, I have an idea, but I'm going to discuss it with him a little bit more and John Luthi, and then maybe come back up and say, I have an idea, so.
Council, any other questions for Terrell?
No.
Terrell, thank you, and thank you for all that you and your staff do.
Oh, and one last request. If we have any, I know I talked to somebody, I think it was Bryce. If we have any extra surplus vehicles, the victim advocates, where we're having so many victim advocates just out at different times, it would be really nice to have those extra vehicles if we're surplusing them. So I just wanted to throw that in. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Terrell. Okay. We'll now move to item 11, initial proposals for consideration of action. And we have first item A, resolution 2021-18, amending the 2021 Cache County budget. And I'll remind the council that usually we will do the public hearing and then wait till the next week to do that. But if we want to make an amendment to that, to add in the suicide concert, I think that would be appropriate.
Madam Chair, can't speak. Madam Chair, I would suggest that we go ahead and amend the budget and add in the concert.
Okay.
Waive the rules.
And waive the rules.
I'll second that.
I think you can amend it without waiving the rules, can't you? I don't know. You can't approve it, but I think you can amend it. Well, we'll just do it for good measure, just to make sure we cover all our bases, right? Right, Tony?
Wake up, Tony. You're on deck.
Yeah.
I'm asleep too.
Yeah.
Is there a dollar amount associated with that?
Yeah, do we have a dollar amount? Do we want to do up to, I think she.
Didn't they say 15?
I think she said the cost of the concert was between $40,000 and $45,000, correct? So.
I would like to state that we have 25, just because if the sponsor that we are kind of hoping on doesn't follow through, that may be, again, not too concerned, but just put that amount.
So you're hoping up to 25? Is that what you're hoping for? You want to make?
Let's add that to the proposal.
Okay. All right, was there a second?
Carl seconded.
Carl seconded, okay.
Hey, Carl.
So the motion is to amend the 2021 Cache County budget to include the suicide concert for up to $25,000.
Correct.
Correctly stated?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor?
Just a minute.
Oh,
You just need a funding source.
oh, a funding source.
Wraps.
I thought we was looking for the restaurant.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
Restaurant.
Out of the restaurant?
Yeah.
Restaurant? Okay,
That's what we
thank you,
decided.
Cameron. Okay, so the motion is to amend the 2021 Cache County budget to include the suicide concert for up to $25,000 from the restaurant tax source. Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. And then if we want to wait to put this on next time, we don't need a motion, it'll just automatically go on.
All right, let's do that.
Okay, so seeing no objection to that, we'll move to item 11B. This is annexation, Providence City, Alder addition, a review to determine if a proposed annexation into Providence City that creates an island or peninsula of unincorporated county should be supported or protested by the county. And I'm guessing that's Chris. Yes. Chris, thanks for being here to tell us about this.
It's just competing with Tim to see who got to speak. So I won.
Now's your chance. Next time, okay.
This is a request that comes to the council because it is resulting in a new island, unincorporated island. So right now there's an existing island and it's just being reduced. Staff doesn't have any concerns. There's one thing we flagged on those conclusions that really just identifies, we found a small error on the plat that didn't accurately represent where the existing city boundaries were. So we've asked them to clarify that. There's not really an impact on the county. It does leave one little parcel all by itself. We can't force those in under the new state code. It used to be you could force those in if you had enough property owners that were part of the majority, but that's now changed and that can't occur unless they want to. There's some other rules that will apply if they're receiving city services, but that's a longer term discussion that we're not involved with as a county. So this just comes with you because the state code says you must agree if they're leaving an unincorporated island or peninsula, and that's it. So what I'd look for from the council tonight is if there is an agreement to allow that to occur, or if there are any other outlying concerns with that parcel remaining where it's at.
I do have one question. We did hear from one nearby property owner, and I don't entirely know exactly what those concerns are, but if a property owner wants to protest this, can they do so?
It would go to the Boundary Commission. There's typically a 30-day window that somebody can file a protest. That would be filed with, I think, probably with Janine. Are you acting as secretary for that commission?
Okay.
So it would be filed there, and they would have to have, I think there's 3 reasons why a protest would become valid, that the Boundary Commission would act contrary to what the request was. So if it doesn't meet one of those 3 things, it would fail. So it would be good for any protesting person. If there's someone here that's looking to protest, I'd recommend you contact our office if you want some info. We're happy to talk to them about that and give them that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
The way I understand it, Chris, is you've explained that this particular island already exists, so apparently in the past, the council has reviewed it and decided that it's acceptable for this island to be there, correct?
It may not have, and that's because the state code changed. It used to be the state code did not allow unincorporated islands or peninsulas, period. I don't know how all those islands and peninsulas got in there. I can't explain why they're there, but that they probably happened before that rule existed in itself. I wish I can look into that. I don't know.
So what I'm understanding is if this annexation was to go through and we don't object, it just makes it from quite a large piece of property down to a very little piece of property. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Like 4 acres, 3 acres or something?
Yeah, let me look. I forgot the number.
3, it's just over 3. 3.13.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the report there. Thank you.
Chris, if the council wanted to, could they say, no, we won't allow this until the property owner convinces the people on the island to come in also?
They could. The county has a pretty big, the county doesn't have to follow that same protest. I mean, we could protest it under those rules, and basically it would essentially state that they haven't met the requirements that the state has laid out that the county must agree. So the county council has a lot of power to stop any unincorporated islands or peninsulas. You could stop it entirely.
What's it being zoned to, or proposed to be zoned to?
I'm not aware of what the proposed zone
Has
is.
that been determined at all yet?
It looks like it's,
Providence City, so.
there's a thing in our packet that has Blackstone petition for annexation, so I'm guessing it's going to be commercial or manufacturing or something.
There's a full plan there that they've included with that application.
Yeah. What's the time frame on this, Chris?
I'd want to check, what's the time frame, Mayor, do you know? On the annexation proposal? Annexation? I'm not sure if you're aware, I'm not sure if you would be there.
The council's already voted to approve the annexation and the
Okay.
There are 10 parcels that were
So from the process standpoint, once the council's approved it, they have so many days before they have to certify it, which means it's reviewed by their county recorder or clerk and their attorney to verify it meets all the state code requirements. Once it's certified, they are required to send a notice to the county council. That would typically go to Janine, and she would receive that, and that starts a period of time for us to be able to protest if you'd like.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
I'm unaware I don't see if that certification's been sent, so I'd need to talk with Janine to see if that's been received or not. Okay.
You don't think you've got it?
Just
Okay.
one question I have is, I can't find which is would be
The island?
the island, yeah.
It's on the other side of the highway. I couldn't find it
It's
either.
across the street.
Yeah, if you look across the highway on the south end,
Yep. I'm pulling it up on the map.
Ballard Springs is,
Yes.
house and Ballard Springs.
So it's not contingent then, contiguous then?
It would be, except for the highway going, well, it is, except for the highway going between it.
Right. Okay, I see it.
That's the parcel there that would not be included.
Which parcel, Chris?
It's the Marlin C. and Lynn S. Hoff 328.
Okay, and that's 3 acres?
That's the 3.13.
Okay.
That's correct.
Oh, it nearly takes all of it.
Yes. If I zoom back out, you can see the city boundaries here a little better. So the annexation is intended to include these parcels, with the exception of that across the road.
Well, it doesn't leave a parcel that is going to be needed to be serviced by the county. So,
Right. But they're all there like they really are an island.
And there's one more island just up to the northeast of it too, is that right? Right, oh, no, down at the bottom of the screen now, to the right. On
Oh, I
79
see.
South right
Yes,
there, that's an
correct.
island also,
That is
right?
also an island. The most recent annexation that occurred was this parcel. I need to turn that on. That would have been in the last 2 years. That piece was annexed that excluded that island that the executive's referring to.
I think in the past, we've kind of been, the council's been in favor of trying to reduce those islands, and that's why we did that piece right there. That's kind of the idea that I remember.
Council's approach in the past has been if there's not an impact to the county service or facilities, then it's been more favorable to those ideas.
So if this is annexed into Providence, then Providence takes over the maintenance of everything and provides the service.
Yeah, in this case, I don't think there's one piece of road, and I'm unaware. I'd have to ask Matt if there's been discussion about that section of road is identified as a county road. The expectation, I think, is that the city would take that.
They already currently maintain that to the east, so they would clean up the county and we would get rid of that small piece.
I wonder if they've been, if the contact to this person that's still got the little island in there, I wonder if there's been some form of an effort to bring them into the fold. That's, I don't know.
I don't know. Mayor, do you know that, or Mayor Drew, do you know if, will you come up and maybe you know the answer to Gordy's question?
Here comes the big man right here. He can tell us.
I'm not going to claim I have all the answers. Chris, one of the things Chris mentioned is this island is shrinking considerably. The rest of the island that is going away is on the west side of the highway. And as Gordon mentioned, this is on the east side of the highway. There's just one parcel. So if you look at that one parcel, to the north and to the east is Providence. Across the highway to the west is now Providence with the annexation. There's a highway in between. To the south is Utah State University agricultural land that they they do there. So that's what's, I mean, everything else is Providence around this parcel.
So Mayor, do we know if the process of annexation has included this 4 acres? Has those people even been contacted? Are they interested? Are they not interested? I mean, if,
I personally know the gentleman who owns that property, and he wants to establish a pig farm there. I mean, he threatens that. I mean, he's a crotchety old guy, and if you talk to him, he'll complain about something the city did him wrong 50 years ago.
yeah.
And by gosh, he's going to stay in the county and do whatever farm he does. Actually, the reality is his son lives in that house, and his daughter-in-law and their family, and so he doesn't even live there. But the interesting thing is the property line slices right through that pond there as well. There's new development going in just to the northeast there, and planned development just to the north. The west side of the highway, the city has, in about a month, will be boring and sleeving the capability to put sewer line on the west side of the highway. And once that's done, then we expect to see rapid development on that side of the highway. That's 1700 South, that's just across from Zions Bank. If you know where Logan Extermination is, that's 1700 South. It's right in that area, both north is 1700 South and the other side as well.
So that's that great big piece.
We've heard from property owners and developers what their plans are. Some of it's very fascinating. We saw a conceptual design. It was very well done.
Is there any plan to, I don't know what your ordinances are, John, is there any plan for public access to that spot as a trail or anything like that? Do you know?
I'm sorry, public access to
I don't know, any part of that land as a trail, or to put a trail through there or anything?
the remainder property?
No, the property that we're in question to annex.
There's wetlands there. I do know that the developers plan to do a geo-study to actually define the boundaries of the wetlands. Once they know that, then they know what their options are. There has been some discussion about walking paths and trails and that type of thing.
Okay, that's fine.
There's one of the developers has plans for corporate headquarters for about 170 employees, very nice plans, and retail on the highway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mayor Drew?
I think that answered the question about the holdout, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, John.
Sure.
Well, council, do you want to take action on this?
Well, I've been watching that piece of property all year, and it was interesting that they got the barley in that property, I think, early so that it was going to be good, and then they never irrigated it, and I thought, what in the world's going on? Looks like it might have young hay in it, but I'm not sure. You know, it's a tremendous piece of property as far as agriculture goes, but it's right smack dab in the middle of Providence and Logan, and so I don't see, you know, I have such a soft spot in my heart for agriculture, but, you know, the best use for it is not a hayfield. But I imagine we probably ought to not oppose it. I don't see a reasoning to. I mean, I'd rather see it stay in agriculture, but you better have a couple $1 million to do something. So I would suggest that we not object. I don't think we need to make a motion or anything, do we?
Tony, do we need a motion to not object to this? Do we have to agree to it? You know? Or do we just not do anything?
Just let it go its course, don't we?
Just let it go, just not take any action on it? Okay.
The council's done different things in the past.
Yeah.
And I agree. Lack of action is pretty much an agreement. Yeah.
There's approval of it, okay. Is there any objection to that course of action?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, we'll now move to item 12A, other business. We have our USAC Fall Conference. That's this week. That's David Zook, myself, Carl, and Paul. That's in Midway. That's always a good time. We have our emergency management course at the Emergency Operations Center at the Sheriff's Complex. That's Monday through Thursday, September 20th to the 23rd, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But if you can't make that, the big day that they're doing the exercise is that Wednesday, the 22nd, from 8:30 to 11:30, and that's at the Sheriff's Office operation. Yes.
There's actually an error on this agenda.
Oh, there is?
This is not at the Sheriff's Complex. It will actually be held at the Riverwoods Conference Center.
Oh, that part will, but
All
the
4
training,
days, all 4 days.
what about the actual exercise?
Yeah, at the Riverwoods.
The exercises at the Riverwoods, we're not meeting in the EOC? Am I understanding
That's
correctly?
my understanding. So
That's,
we-
I am not sure, because when we were there, Will said that we would be meeting back there in the EOC to do our training.
Maybe that piece. We'll verify that because I know the 4-day event is at
The
the
4-day event
Riverwoods.
is at the Riverwoods, okay.
We'll verify if there's a piece that's pulled out, because I know that piece on Wednesday is the one you're welcome to come any of the days if you'd like, but he especially would like you there.
Yeah, he really wants us on that Wednesday. He asked us to
So
be
we'll,
there,
let us
so.
verify and we'll get to you the exact location. We'll send a calendar invite.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you, David. The USU Homecoming Parade, Saturday, October 23rd. David Zook, Carl, Gina, Barbara, Paul, and the other takers let us know. UAC Annual Convention is set for November 9th through the 12th in St. George, and it looks like we're all going to that. So we have council member reports, and then we'll have an executive session. So council member reports, Gordy?
I have been approached by several individuals. I'm not exactly sure how to direct them. I did talk to the events manager down there, but we've got quite a few people that would sure like an opportunity to use the event center for pickleball in the wintertime. And when I talked to the manager down there, he sent a very negative, not desirous of that to happen. And so the one thing that I bring it up is that I guess pickleball is almost a phobia in our county, and that would be an excellent place to have winter pickleball. But then again, I don't know how much that's going to interfere with all the activities that we got down there. And I guess I bring it up to the council as we might have some more pressure put on us to maybe that open up. And so I'm just bringing it out. Has anyone else heard anything about pickleball in there? And is it even possible? I didn't see any lines, so I don't know.
8 lines.
I've heard it too. I was contacted by a North Logan City Council member about it. There
Do
are
we have
ways it could be
holes?
done. There are mobile courts and it could be taped. There are some indoor rec centers that do it that way, where they'll use a basketball court, for example, and they just have standards that stand up on their own. They don't need to have a hole in the ground, and they can tape the lines. So it's something that could be done. I'm guessing, and I haven't had a chance to talk to the staff over there about their concerns with it, but I'm guessing their concern is that it would conflict with events, and the only time it would be able to be done is if there were not an event, and it would probably vary from week to week, and that would be maybe a logistical challenge to figure that out. But I would be curious. I haven't had a chance to look into it since I was contacted a couple of days ago about this, but I would be curious if how the council would think about that.
This is what I thought about, and I'll share with the council. You know, if we go ahead and are able to get the armory purchased, that looks to me like that would be an ideal place to be able to have some indoor pickleball during the wintertime. And then it wouldn't interfere with our event schedule. I mean, pickleball people would love to schedule that solid. And what do you do when you've said you can, do pickleball this day and this, and then something comes along at the event center that it's really built for?
Mm-hmm.
How do you start picking and choosing? And anytime you start bumping, that's when you get in trouble. And so I would guess that's maybe something we ought to look towards. And if we are serious about buying the armory, maybe we can put it off until then.
I'm wondering what the tape would do on the floor and how practical that is to have will it come off as other people use it? Are you gonna have to keep replacing it? I mean, there's some practical concerns that I have, but originally we talked about, when we built that, yeah, we could do pickleball down there, and pickleball wasn't even as popular as it is now,
Yeah.
so. I would wanna know what the staff was concerned about down there, so that's my, I'd like to know what staff thinks and what their concerns are.
I would
before
like
we
to
move
have
forward.
our events manager give us he had a pretty strong opinion against it, and so there's some things that's gone on that he couldn't discuss with me, and so I'm guessing that what we need to do is to get a little more information.
Yeah.
I don't think we know enough about it to make any kind of a decision.
You put tape on the floor, it's always got a sticky spot, and then it's a dirty spot.
I can reach out to him and have him prepare a presentation to you if you'd like for a future meeting.
Why don't we just talk to him?
That Jess out there, I bet you he's a pickleball player, and he wants to make it.
My understanding is that one of the solutions for my elections department is to move us to the armory, potentially. We're okay with about anywhere at this point. But we do have a warehouse, and that warehouse would be unused during the winter time. And I believe it would be the fair using it during the summer, and it would be fairly easily converted to something that could be used. It's right there by where they do the frisbee golf, those types of things. It's heated. So it could be a solution. Just wanted to throw it out there.
So there's another option somewhere.
And the Armory has a gymnasium area already in it. I think
I think it's got a full court in it. I remember
solution.
playing there when I was, a young man,
Yeah.
so.
Gordy,
All right,
thanks for bringing that up.
let's go ahead and do some more work in that. And I got another thing here, funding. I don't even remember. I can't read my own writings. I don't even understand what I had here. I did hear, maybe this isn't the place to bring it up, but I did hear that Nibley has ran into some serious funding problems with the roundabout because of the structure of the land and water and whatnot, and they want to make a quick pitch for more COG money. And so I don't know if that's all happened too fast. Do you know anything about it, Matt?
I've heard those same things, but I don't know if COG made a decision, if they approached COG, I'm not aware of that.
I don't know. I'm just starting to hear rumblings.
Is that federal funding? I know North Logan and Smithfield just got federal funding, air quality funding to do roundabouts. Do you know where that funding came from?
I'm just, I just heard a rumbling
This project's not
yesterday.
eligible. We just had a meeting and the Nibley mayor was there and he didn't bring it up. And we were talking about having enough money for all of the projects, so I'm not sure. I have heard that they have had some challenges with the soils once they dug it up, but my understanding is they're able to pay for it.
The local person that knows it all, he just said that they are really shut the project down because the funding is not there now and they don't really know where they're at with it. And one of the solutions, they mentioned COG, and so I guess we're all just barely starting to hear things, and I don't think they even know what they need, but you hate to have a project right in the middle of a near completion and then run into problems and then it sits there for another year. All right, we just for everybody's information, so that's all, Gina, thank you.
Thank you, Gordy. Carl?
Nothing really. Sean and I had the chance to accompany the governor when he was up here and had a pleasant experience.
Thank you. Paul?
Nothing for me.
Okay. I'll say I got to accompany the governor as well when he went to our new Hiram Road facilities, and thank you, Matt, for doing such a good job in the way that was arranged and your presentation. I thought you did fantastic, and it was great to have him there and get to talk to him for a moment and get to show him around. I was really impressed with SDL. It's kind of funny. I should be more familiar with them since my husband works there, but I don't know all the stuff because he can't always tell me. But they are really significant to our valley. They bring in over $200 million in contracts. They have over 1,000 employees now. In the last 2 years, they've gone from 800 to 1050, and they're quiet, but they are significant. And I was excited that we got to tour that and boy, those guys are rocket scientists, the stuff they have to think about, you know, foil and things, all this crazy stuff that they have to figure out to get into space, man, that was, just blew my mind. I wanted to let the council know that the Fairgrounds Advisory Board is once again considering the possibility of allowing alcohol at some form or another at the fairgrounds, not necessarily at the fair, but a subcommittee was formed to look more at those possibilities, and that will be coming to council if they come up with something. Also wanted to alert you that we had a group bring us a petition. I believe they said they had 400 signatures. I didn't verify that. That's on your iPads, and then this as well, asking for a mask mandate. And just wanted to make you aware of that so that you knew that was there and could take a look at it.
One more follow-up now, Gina. Gordon, I'm not on the subcommittee to bring alcohol to the
I was just
fairgrounds.
wondering, we've
I just
already.
want you to know that's not me.
We've already tried to take, we've taken a step that way. I'm not so sure you're gonna slow it down.
Well, I didn't hop on that bandwagon. I just wanted them to grow the grapes. That was it.
I just can't wait till I get you in that there, that buggy we ran around the fairgrounds in and have a few under your skin and see if you can even make it up and out.
On that note, we need to move into executive session. If I could get a motion, and in that motion state the reason and where we are meeting.
Motion to go to executive session to discuss the sale of real property.
Second.
And in the council.
In the council chambers, okay? Conference room, thank you, that's the real legit
Before
name.
we break, I would think it would be very appropriate if we send a nice thank you card to Vicki and John for their hospitality. If
great
Janine would
idea.
take care of that and get it there and tell them, we just had a great time.
Yeah, we did. Thank you for thinking of that, Gordon.
You know, it was a really good experience.
It really was. Okay, so we have a motion to move into executive session under Utah Code 5242051E. Wow, I said that fast. Discussion of the sale of real property, and we will be meeting in the council conference room. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.